What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking the Barriers, where today we'll be reflecting on something different, something that's connected to how you're able to live and experience your time here on the UAlbany campus. Before we begin, I want to go through some introductions so we can know who's on our episode today. So, take us away, Sean.
What's up, everybody? My name's Sean Johnson. I'm currently the Assistant Director for Student Conduct, but I have a lot of experience at UAlbany. I've been an Assistant Director for the living areas, so I supervise state and indigenous squads and worked with our freshman population. I've been an RD, I've been an orientation leader, I've been a student here, so I'm excited to talk about everything that those things taught me.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tremaine Harris, not to be mistaken with Jermaine Harris. We're twins, identical twins. I just want to put that out there. I work for the Department of Res Life. I'm the Senior Associate Director for the Department of Residential Life. I oversee student conduct, facilities, technologies, community development, and facilities. Yes, I have an extensive profile. So I've been a resident director, I've been an RA, I've been a peer mentor. I've pretty much done it all. I've also worked on pretty much every living area at the department. So alumni quad, indigenous state quad, Dutch quad, Empire, Freedom, Liberty. Yeah, just about every area I've been on. So I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad that both of you were able to come out, and talk about these different things. So, as you both highlighted, there's a lot of personal experiences that you've had on campus. So, what are some that you, did or experienced that helped you feel more connected with your peers while living on campus?
Sure. So I think that one of the biggest things that helped me get connected was ultimately getting connected with a specific community. So for me, that was my orientation team and the people that I met when I supervised a bunch of those orientation sessions. That was the real catalyst for me. So it all started with a mentorship that I found, and the guy sitting next to me, Trey, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the big catalyst, the way that the campus really shrunk, and I started saying hi to people while walking to class, and I started knowing people when I walked in a room, was getting involved in whatever that niche is. So for me, that first niche was orientation, and the people that I worked with there and the students that I interacted with there. But it really started there, and then you find more niches, you find more things that you're really passionate about. So I think there's little communities in this big community. It is a big community, it is a big family, but finding that those niches is going to be really helpful for students.
I would say for me, it was going to different programs. Like I went to programs that fraternities and sororities would have on campus. I went to RA programs. I'm also an avid cook, so I would cook things while I was in the residence halls, borrow a kitchen, and just have people over and kind of introduce myself that way. Also game nights. I was a big advocate about having games and playing video games with people on my floor. So if someone was into something, I'd be like, oh, let's have a game night or play against each other, and it kind of attracted more people. That's pretty much how I got to know my community and just talk to people. Sometimes I would just go to the dining hall and just sit down with people I see. Hey, is this extra seat here? And just start talking to them. But that's just me. It was trying to just get out of my comfort area and just meet different people, see what they were doing. So that's one of the things I like doing is just talking to different people, see where they're coming from, things of that nature.
Yeah.
I also used to do, when I was a student, I used to cut hair too. So that got a lot of people kind of coming to me, and I would show people just get clippers and how you can cut your own hair and stuff like that. So that actually got me more out there because some people didn't know I could cut hair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like you two both understood who you were as an individual, the different talent skills that you had, and how that was able to translate in your ability to find people to connect with. I like that because for me, I was a transfer student. So when I came to campus, trying to identify that when, the campus already looks like everybody has it figured out already, it's kind of a challenge. So even just thinking about the different things that I think I could offer and who would be able to align with that made it tough sometimes. But as time progressed, like you said, I found my community in terms of how I could make it work. So thinking about that struggle that I had, right, what would you say could help a student, make their experience more like home?
Yeah, so I think that that barrier that freshmen feel is strong, right? It's you're coming from this place where you're really comfortable and you've been home trained your entire life, whatever that is, whatever your home environment looks like, you expect to see it when you come in here. And everybody has different backgrounds. Everybody has different home environments. But the cool thing about UAlbany is, for example, I was part of a living learning community. I was part of World of Writing. So even if we were coming from completely different places, and even though it seemed like we had these barriers between us, we all had common interests, not just writing, but we interacted with each other and we found out what else, right? We would have like horror movie nights in the common area, or we would do like, birthday parties for everybody. That's not necessarily a common interest, but that's just showing up for each other, and that's just, showing that you care about each other. So we had a really close-knit floor. I kind of mentioned in my previous answer that orientation is where it really kicked off for me, and I still think that that's true, but having that close-knit floor and really caring about each other, and finding common interests, for me it was through the living learning community. But there's a million ways to do that. That is what will really open up the book for everybody. So that really helped, is having people that were really open to breaking down those barriers, even if we did come from different backgrounds or we didn't have much in common. Otherwise, we really found the things that we did have in common, and we focused on those, and we had a really good community on that floor that year. That's where I proposed to my wife, because that's where I met my wife, is Fulton Hall, 3rd floor.
Oh, wow, that's real full circle there.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Top that, Trey.
First of all, I can top that.
Yeah, you can.
I proposed to my wife on the...
I shouldn't have opened this book.
Yeah, you should not have. Because mine is still on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
my
true.
Proposal, all right? Claudio Gomez from EOP actually did the video for it, and we proposed... What's the field called now?
Casey? No.
Is it Casey?
Casey Stadium? Is this still Casey
it's
Stadium?
still Casey Stadium. Yeah,
Yeah, Casey.
So Casey Stadium was where I actually proposed, and funny how that occurred, because the person who arranged for it was J.D. Hyde, who worked in residential life. And my first interaction with J.D. Hyde was, he thought I was Jermaine. And he was like, oh, come help me with something. I was like, I don't know who you are, though. He's like, oh, no. I was like, oh, no, Jermaine. I was like, no, I'm Tremaine. And he was like, oh, I'm J.D., just ask about me. I get things done, and if you do something for me, don't worry, I'll return a favor. I was like, okay. So this guy I didn't even know had me do something that I think I was doing some work, manual labor, for like 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, but he definitely returned the favor and then some. Like, it was a great experience. He actually pulled me into doing convocation stuff, like being at graduation, and got me like one of these nice jackets. So that's how I connect with other people in different departments. Like, J.D. Hyde doesn't work anymore, but he was a definitely great mentor to have. Like, he was someone who kind of knew the ins and outs of things, definitely navigated and looked out for me, like gave me opportunities. And that's why I always say to students, don't turn down any opportunity. Say yes. Don't always say no, because you never know where that could lead you. Because right now you might be thinking about, oh, well, what's going to come from this? And that's not always the best outcome. It's like, what can you gain from it? You should be thinking about now, like, what's the early profit, or what can I get right away from doing this? But that's one of the things I've always told, and the things I've told Sean is like, when he was saying, oh, what do you think of being as a student leader orientation? I was like, oh, that'd be great for you. Like, you're outspoken. I think you'll resonate with the students coming in. You are a good student. You know the pros and cons of being a student. You're someone who's made bad decisions but had moved past that. So, you can use that experience to relate to students.
That's kind of getting into that topic of mentorship that I sort of deferred earlier, because I wanted to bring it up around this time. Like, Trey was my mentor, and Trey was my mentor because, and I'm going to bring it up here because I have no shame in it, I was in trouble. I got in trouble my freshman year. I see the irony in the fact that I'm the assistant director for student conduct now. I got in trouble in my freshman year, big trouble, right? And my academics were good. I was part of this living learning community, but I was acting in a way that was going to put me down a path where I wouldn't be at the university at a certain point. I was just going to keep getting in trouble. So I met with Trey as my mentor for the core program, which is like a program that you do to essentially get out of trouble. I'm not going to go into details, but I met with him as a requirement, and I took that mentorship very seriously, not just because of my mentality about it, but because of the way that Trey approached it. He made me care about it, and he made me realize that I was on a fence where I could lean one way or the other. I could be out of the university in a year or a year and a half, or I could go full force into things that I was good at. So that's how I got into orientation. That's how my academics continued to be the way that they were, because I could have gone down one path, but I didn't. And I think that that's the mentorship component really speaking for itself, because I would not have gotten to that place if it wasn't for Trey. Not to gas him up too much, but if it was not for Trey, I would definitely not be the assistant director. There you go. I would not be the AD for student conduct. Definitely not. So I appreciate the mentorship, and I think that that's something that any student can keep in mind is when you're given the core program as part of a probationary sanction, do the mentorship. Like, take this seriously. Even if you're not part of the core program, find a mentor. Find a professor that you really like. Find a director, assistant director of an office that you really like, whatever the case may be. Everybody needs a mentor.
Yeah, and I know Sean learned from me, but I also learned from him. So I treat every mentee that I have differently, because they're the ones who are teaching me different things, or how to communicate with someone better, because everyone I've mentored is different. So I try to find out what their interests are. I try to support them when they're doing things. Like, I had one who liked to do steps, so I would go to their step stuff. One who liked to do dance, so I would go to their dance things as well. I had one mentee who was trying to get a car, and I went with them to go talk to the dealer about the car. I was like, you need to know these things when you're looking at a car. So just to help them out, because I'm like, she's a senior, and they're like, the parents was in New York City. So I was like, I don't mind going with you, and then talking to the guy about it. So those things kind of help me. And it's good to stay connected to the younger generation, because they are the ones who are going to be in my position next or doing other things later on. And the way I approach my mentorship is like, I want us to have these conversations. I want to be your devil's advocate. Like, if you're thinking about making a decision, and I can tell you something Sean came into, he was like, Trey, I'm thinking about getting a fake ID. And I'm like, okay, why would you need a fake ID, Sean? He was like, I want to get into the clubs and things that my friends are going to. And I'm like, okay, but that'll also mean that you could drink and you're underage. And he's like, yeah, but I wouldn't be doing that. I was like, oh, okay, so let me ask you a question. What if you are like driving and you have that fake ID and you get pulled over, you give the officer the wrong ID? He's like, oh, I didn't think about that. I was like, yeah, like, these things can happen. You get pulled over, you get the wrong ID, or if UPD stop you for any reason while you're on campus and you have to give an ID, and you're like, wait, oh, dang, I gave him the wrong ID. Because most people don't switch out their IDs. Yeah. So it was just kind of having that conversation. Like I said, I was like, I wasn't going to shame him about it, but I'm like, you need to think about these things. That's why you're bringing this question up. And I thanked him for asking my opinion and coming to me and talking to me about it too. I was like, did you talk to your parents about this? He's like, oh, no. I can't do that. That's why I'm bringing it up to you first. Yeah. So I appreciate us having that conversation.
Yeah, I'm noticing a theme actually that is like just throbbing in my mind. I noticed that as both of you spoke, what contributed to your experience as this place becoming a home was your ability to find people that you could trust. Kind of like in your home, you might have things that you go to, whether it's your parents, your guardians. You have that developed trust within your home that makes it that. Other than that, it would just be a house or apartment or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So I appreciate you kind of talking about that in terms of how it's not only about just my experiences personally, but even just my ability to talk about it with other people, or the ability to have people that are in your corner, that gives you that holistic feeling of having a home that's around you. So it's pretty cool. So I guess let's say like if I wanted to get there, I wanted to put myself in a position to get there, but I'm nervous or I don't know the ropes. Like what are some things that I could potentially do to set myself up for that kind of success?
I think those things come to you, right? And what I mean by that is that a lot of people don't have problems finding opportunities. They have problems taking opportunities. There are a million things that will come at you, especially in your freshman year. I mean, we gear our entire curriculum, our entire experience for freshmen around finding something, right? Finding a club to be involved in, finding an academic route that you're really passionate about. For me, that was English. Like I poured my soul into my academics. Finding a job that you really like, whether that's RA, I mentioned orientation. I worked for Campus Rec. Like there's a million different avenues for that. So those opportunities will come to you, whether you accept them or not is the important part. So I mentioned my core program, there's plenty of people that are given the core program or given really probation, and they have the option to do the core program, but they don't do it. They think that the mentorship is going to be too annoying to do every 2 weeks. They don't want to do the programs that are involved in getting that done. They don't want to do the community service. Well, maybe that community service opportunity would be something that you become really passionate about, and now that's your avenue. Or maybe, some of the programs that you went to would introduce you to some new people, and now that's your friend group. I already mentioned what the mentorship stuff can do for you. So I think that taking opportunities is the important part, and like recognizing when those opportunities come to you.
What I would say is take baby steps.
Yep.
Don't think you have to do everything all at once. Take that first baby steps. Like if you're one of those people who is not outgoing, just try to go to a program that your RA may be hosting, or go to a campus event. Maybe you'll meet someone there, or sit at a table in the dining room with someone else who's sitting by themselves and be like, hey, is anybody sitting here? But take those baby steps. Take yourself out your comfort zone for one time. You'll see it could be rewarding. It may not be rewarding, but don't stop from taking those simple baby steps. If talk to someone in your class, have a study group. Hey, if you're doing well in the class and other people aren't, and you notice, hey, have a study group with everybody else to bring them up. I know I used to do that where I was scoring higher than some of my friends, and they were like, oh, could you tell us what you do differently or how you're studying? And I'm like, oh, well, why don't we just have a study group together? So I think that is kind of the key way to start out first, and then you'll see your horizon expanding when you do that.
Okay. So, what if all right, I figured all this out. I got my horizon expanding. Cool. How could I potentially translate it into like a living situation that isn't working out for me? So everything else is, but in terms of where I live, where I lay my head, it's not the most ideal situation. What do I do then?
Well, so, I would say that, first of all, communication with Res Life is key. So you're talking to Res Lifers. I don't necessarily know what the situation is. Like you say that, where you lay your head isn't the best situation. That could be coming from roommates. That could be coming from a problem with the space, or, resentment from the fact that you didn't get the space that you wanted last year. So now you're, annoyed about the space this year. Like there are a bunch of different things that could be going on, but I think that the start of that is getting in touch with Res Life. We have some incredible RDs, RAs, boots on the ground to know exactly what to do in more situations than you know how to count. So, that's my shameless plug for Res Life. I think that was kind of my first thought is like, if I hear that a student is struggling in their living space, but I don't know what's going on, my first move is to get them in touch with their RD or their resources in Res Life, because that's what we do. That's what we do best.
Yeah, I echo what Sean's saying. You should be talking with your RD, your RA, but I also tell the student, like, well, what is the issue? Have you spoken actually to your roommate or roommate about this issue, and how have you spoken to them? Because sometimes they're like, well, they do these things, but I don't say anything. And I'm like, well, why don't you say anything? They're like, well, I don't want to start a conflict. I was like, okay, well, it may not be a conflict. You're saying they're doing these things, but you've never said anything to them. So how do you expect them to react when, you want to have a mediation with them, but you've never said anything to them? So I think that, why don't you start there first? Be like, hey, can we have a conversation? Like when my roommate I'm a clean person when I was a freshman, and my roommate was a messy person. And I was like, hey, listen, man, the room's starting to smell. I see you leaning your clothes all over the place. Like, let's work out a cleaning schedule. Like, I'm not saying you got to clean up every day. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, how about once a day or once in this week you clean up on this day? That way we be good. Because I know it wasn't like the impromptu kind of, we do the suite mate agreements and roommate agreements. This was more of me just starting a conversation about sleep, because when we first got there, we didn't talk. It was just like, hey, my name is Justin, my name is Tremaine, you call me Trey, whatever, and it just kind of just, hey, bye, and that. And then, lo and behold, we started talking and trying to get to know each other. And I remember the one thing that broke the ice was, he's like, I want to talk to you about something serious. And I'm like, talk to me about something serious? What do you want to talk about? He's like, how do you feel about me being in my birthday suit? Because when I'm home, I like to be in my birthday suit. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not comfortable with that. We share this room. Like, there's no wall barrier. Like, you got to at least have the boxes on, bro. That's all I'm saying. Just Just you got to keep that on. So that was like, and then he was like, okay, that's fair. So then he was like, yo, how come you be sleeping with your arms crossed on the bed and then you just wake up at the same time every day? And then you talk to yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, I can explain that. I'm not talking to myself. I said, so for me to memorize things, I repeat it back to myself out loud. So that helps with my memory. It's something I learned as a kid. So I'm not really talking to myself. I'm just trying to memorize this thing that I usually do so I don't forget it. And I should get and I don't have a planner right now, so that's how I usually do it. And then I eventually got a planner. And I said the other thing is I'm from the city. So I went to Oneonta, and I'm like, it's just too quiet up here. So I always woke up at like 6:30 on the dot without an alarm clock. So it was just too quiet. I was used to some kind of noise. And then lo and behold, we started eating together. I showed him some dance moves, which he used to pick up girls. Mind you, Justin was just like, yo, those dance moves hit, man. They were like working for me. Like you a genius. I was like the only one at this party knocking the dance when the girls thought I was like the bomb. Of course, it was old school stuff, so I don't even want to bring up the moves because it's going to tell my age, so I'm not going to say what that was. But it was just like you get the conversation started, not everything's going to be a conflict. Yep. And we were in a suite, so we had two other roommates, and I'm trying to remember what their names. I think it was Dave and Brian. I think the other person was in the suite. I didn't really talk to them too much because they were like because we were like in a thing, and all of us was running the class, but we kind of hung out with them from here to there, but it was just literally like have that conversation room and just think about it as like you don't know this person, but bring up things that you know that could cause conflict in the room. Like, have these conversations early on so that way y'all guys don't have any conflicts. Right. And you should always talk to your room so they're not surprised because maybe they might be like, oh, he's never said anything. Right. Because you haven't said anything.
And now Res Life's knocking at the door.
And yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a love connection, right? Like, in my freshman year, me and my roommate were fine. I never got a room change. I never had a roommate mediation, none of that. But, he wasn't my roommate in my sophomore year. You know what I mean? Like, we coexisted for freshman year. I found a group of friends that I really loved, and then we signed up for housing early as soon as we could, right? So that's another shameless plug. Sign up for housing early.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, if you find your group, it's live with the people you know. Like, I wouldn't say live with your best friend because if y'all are best friends from high school and you come to college together, but you have never lived together, that could be a recipe for disaster.
Right.
So live with people you know, how they live and everything else, So everybody has their own quirks, so it's about compromise. All right, so you got to be willing to compromise. Not everybody cleans the same. Not everybody's from the same background. So you kind of got to have like a set schedule. Remember, you guys are together, living together, so you got to be respectful of certain things. Some people aren't used to it. Some people are used to their parents doing all the cleaning. So they ain't never cleaned nothing in their lives. So you got to be mindful of that kind of thing. Yeah. But you got to be willing to chip in and have those conversations.
Yeah, so we touched on a lot today. A lot of aspects that definitely contribute to our ability to have an experience that is holistic. So not only in terms of what we do outside in our classrooms, in our various groups that we're in, but letting those things kind of translate back and forth. So your ability to take the first step to meet with the mentor, that could also be something that enables you to have that first conversation with your roommate about stuff. So it's kind of like seeing it as the opportunity to grow in every facet and then utilize the resources around you to also like kind of support you in the decisions that you make. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the word that you use, support, because literally when you're in college, you want to have that support network. Those are the people who kind of keep you grounded. When you like having a bad day, you need that support. So when you have that group or your friendish, those are the people who pull you up. So it's definitely good to have those people in your corner because, you're away from home. So you want to have that support network, those people who are your resource to do things and step out your comfort zones. You want to make sure you're meeting those people. And I can honestly say, like, the people I've met in college are still my friends today. I still communicate with them. I still go visit them. Like, they may be out of state, but I go see them from time to time. They come up to see me. So, really, these people you're meeting in college could be your lifelong friends.
Yep.
All right. Well, you heard it all here. The way that you can essentially improve your experience, not even only where you live, but also just where you attend, how you spend your time. Hope that you receive something from this. And stay tuned for the next episode on Breaking the Barriers. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Trey. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure.